Hello, everybody. This is Walter Dial of Ennis Legacy Partners. I'm here with my co-host, Corby McGordon. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building transferable business value, planning your eventual exit from the business, and realizing a happy and successful life after the business. Everything we talk about here, as well as the work we do, is focused on business owners and their goals for exit and life after the business. One of the topics that we've been dealing with a lot over the last few months, I think you would agree, Corby, is the area of incentive compensation. And, we've been dealing with some phantom stock plans. I think we've had a few of those come up recently and other types of incentive stock. And I think one of the things that dawned on us is that, a lot really in order for an incentive comp plan to be successful, a lot of thought and planning has to be put into it. And oftentimes owners don't really do that. They just think of it, okay, well, here's another way to give somebody a bonus. And they don't really think of the implications, especially if you've somehow tied incentive comp to the success of the business and the business doesn't meet the parameters, all of a sudden that bonus the employee thought was going to come their way might not be there. So, a lot of thought you don't want to turn your incentive comp into a disincentive. And we've seen that happen. So as we were discussing it, maybe it was Corby, a name popped in his head, Elizabeth Mower from our days from BEI. And Elizabeth, we've had you on, I think probably almost once a year since we started the podcast. And we may have even covered this topic before, but we thought it was a great time to revisit it. So let me introduce you to our viewers. So Elizabeth, we know her from way back when she was on the staff of the Business Enterprise Institute, which is really kind of maybe not exactly the original, but I think pretty close to the original exit planning group. And that's where Pat and I both got certified in the early days, really enjoyed the training. Went to a few of the conferences that Elizabeth was responsible for organizing, and they were always great. And then in 2016, Elizabeth became the president of BEI, did a wonderful job there. And then in 2022, she left BEI to start her own venture called entreVector. So Elizabeth, welcome. Always great to have you. Let's start off. Can you tell us about your new venture?
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. It's always good to be back with you guys because we do you do a lot of interesting work. And so we always are able to have interesting and even somewhat challenging conversations so that we can talk about the more difficult parts of working with businesses. You're right. About 3 years ago, I stepped away from my role at BEI to start a new venture called entreVector. And it does basically two things. The first one is that I went back to doing direct work with business clients, which I had not been doing in my role as president of BEI. It didn't allow me to have quite as much direct business consultative work as I really enjoy doing. So I'm doing that kind of work on a variety of topics. Where either the client or an advisor is in a particularly challenging or sticky situation and feels that my expertise could be helpful. So I do that kind of work part of the time. And then the real goal of entreVector as a company is really separate from Elizabeth as a subject matter expert. And the company is intended to create programs and solutions that are direct to businesses that help them with some of the more difficult problems that they're facing. So in my work over the last 25 years with businesses, I see a lot of the things that are creating the challenges for my business owners, for privately held businesses that are small and in the lower middle market up to middle market. And entreVector's mission is really to help solve sort of one of those problems at a time. So we're sort of chipping away at it. And we can talk more about that if it comes up.
So Elizabeth, we were talking, I don't know, it was a couple of months ago, and this topic came up, and I got the sense that you feel that incentive comp is broken. Well, Walter alluded to the fact sometimes it become a disincentive. So just What are your thoughts on what's not working in incentive comp and why?
Right. And I do remember that conversation. We've all been seeing a lot of change and pressure on privately owned, closely held, family owned businesses. They have pressure coming from a lot of directions. And that's something that you hear about all the time. So that's not particularly new. One of the areas where I have been the most active over the last 25 years is in incentive compensation. So when I first started, maybe we called it executive compensation. And I can remember in my very first role more than 25 years ago, somebody said, well, I do executive compensation. And I literally said, what is that? So I've really come a long way since then. I ended up spending a lot of my professional career doing creative incentive compensation. So I learned all the technicalities of what we would call back in the BEI days, cash-based incentive plans. And then there were equity-based incentive plans. And then they had to be, we had some criteria for them about how, the plan needed to be significant and specific and measurable, and it needed to, have intended targets, and it had to have the right people in it. And so I had some criteria that I would talk about when I taught incentive plans. And then I've done a lot of incentive plan kind of consultation sessions with advisors who have clients and have kind of an unusual incentive planning situation. So, they have a business where 2 business active children are needing to develop their skills to take over running the company. But we need to get to a particular financial outcome for the parent who's eventually going to step away or step down in some significant way. So we've got family business, we've got family wealth, but we also want to do incentive planning. That's just one example of many where I was brought in to try and think creatively about how we can achieve many of those goals together. I did almost all of my incentive planning work for the very top leadership team. So that was, your management team, your top, usually sort of like 2 to 4 people, although I've done incentive plans for larger groups than that. They tend to be a very small number of the highest level of employees below ownership. And the planning that you do has to motivate, incentivize, reward, and potentially help you retain those top people. The plan also needs to overlay nicely with the other goals, objectives, and timeline of the current owners. So you have to think about that. There's all these different things you have to do. But I think the real problem came in the last few years, as I've been doing incentive planning consultation with my business clients, and me seeing that approach, this sort of top level leadership, very specific, almost always based on financial targets, almost always an incentive plan having a financial reward system. So it could be cash, could be equity, but it's some kind of a financial or monetary type of dollar value reward system. So dollars in performance leads to dollars in benefits for the very top level. Okay, that's all great, but it's totally incomplete. So the businesses that I'm working with now, and I sense that the businesses that you're talking to are telling you, well, we're already paying as much as we can pay. I'm hearing that. So I don't have any more resources to add to additional compensation. That's an issue. I'm also hearing a lot, and I suspect you are too, those millennial and Gen Z employees, they're coming up in the management levels of the company, and they want different things than leadership team members did 15 or 20 years ago when I was developing a lot of my more interesting plans. So as the culture changes, as the perspectives of our employees change, we are seeing that they want things that are different than what a top level employee wanted or expected 15 or 20 or 25 years ago. And our incentive plans are not including that. Also, lots of your business clients have complained, oh, I have these low level employees and they really want to be in leadership. They think they're ready to be the president. And we sort of viewed it from a very negative perspective. Oh, these younger employees, they think they should be in charge. Well, my view now that I've been working with businesses directly again for the last few years, some of those employees who think that they should be or will be in charge, some of them are right. Some of them do have the talent. They're human, the human capital continues to demonstrate a lot of creativity and performance ability and leadership ability. So some of those people are right, but the way they express it is maybe a little different, and the things that they expect or want or hope for or demand in return are going to be a little bit different. So the two main things that I think my old approach was doing wrong. The first one is that it was really focusing on the current leadership team and no one else. And it just said, go do good performance. And kind of said, and you figure out what that means for all of the people that you're responsible for within the organization. So the layer was too thin. And also the rewards and the incentives were too narrow scope. They tended to be only financial. And our teams care about different things than that. So my new planning goes much deeper in the organization, provides a path for employees at lower levels in the organization to see how they will navigate and grow into higher levels of opportunity, both in their roles and responsibilities and also the rewards that they receive. And then I'm flipping outward from financial rewards to both financial and non-financial, and creating a really complex and much more layered approach to incentives and compensation than I used to. Does that make sense? Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, we definitely are. What non-financial rewards? Give us an example of that.
Sure. I am talking with my clients. It's really, you've done this too, I think, where a series of clients is really the source of your new way of doing something. So I am doing that. What my clients drove me without saying so to do is to create something that I'm calling the comp stack. So, you have your tech stack in your business, and your tech stack is a constellation of technology solutions that you arrange to deliver your business. And yours is different from mine, and they're both good. So I'm suggesting that every business should have a comp stack, and the comp stack is going to have both of these financial and non-financial elements to it. And it's going to be layered and built up. So to answer your question more specifically, especially towards the bottom of the comp stack, we are going to see some more non-financial elements, and we're going to treat them as part of our compensation package overall. Some very specific examples, we might do, training. I have multiple business clients now who have been delivering training to their employees in a separate sort of administrative activity. What we're doing now for my clients, and these are very different industries, very different sizes of businesses, and they all end up sort of navigating this way. We're taking training, and instead of it being a separate activity run by an overhead or administrative kind of team, it's going to be brought into the comp stack. And it's no longer something that employees have to do. Now it's something that employees get to do. And training is not only in the areas where we need to train people, you need this information in order to do your job correctly. Now we might also offer training in just glimpses of areas that are not related to the team that you're on, so that you can get a better understanding of the business and how it works. And just by thinking about that, you can think like, okay, I can see how that would be good for the employee. And it might be good also for the employer to give people context to the work that they're doing. The younger generations need more of that, and they value it very highly. So I have a restaurant owning company that is training people who are really largely on the service side of the business with a little bit of how the finances of their cost of goods, basically food, works and impacts the business and the overall profitability. Just a little bit of information. I have another client who has a founder who's kind of a celebrity in their industry, really well known. Most employees do not get to interact with this founder. He's busy doing important founder things. So as part of their training program, that's now something you get to do rather than something you have to do. Once you've completed a certain combination of training modules that you must get through, you are then eligible to participate in basically a masterclass with this celebrity founder who's extremely well known in the industry. Well, we're building the masterclass opportunity right now, and then we're going to allow people to say on their resume, I participated in a masterclass with this person who's one of the top 5 people in the country for what they know how to do. And I've also got another client who is offering really expanded wellness opportunities. So it's maybe wellness coaching. You've seen in the past, some businesses offered health and wellness opportunities, fitness, tracking, but also now companies are adding wellness coaching. I've seen companies adding financial planning and retirement consultation. And so that would be non-financial to the employee. So those are just a few of the examples.
Yeah. And then what you're saying, Elizabeth, you kind of touched on it, that the depth as well. How deep do you go into the organization, in a moderately sized company with, say, 50, 60 employees?
Mm-hmm. My comp stack approach that I'm encouraging everyone to use now goes all the way down to every single employee at every level for at least some parts. So the comp stack literally starts with your base compensation. So 100% of employees are participating in the comp stack. Is your base compensation fair? At the right moment and for the right person? Are you participating in a performance-based compensation? That would be like commission, bonuses, things like that based on verifiable objective targets. So that I think still stays in your comp stack. I have a client that has an ESOP. Every employee is a participant in the ESOP. But before we started working together, they were doing a really terrible job of explaining to employees what the benefits of their ESOP participation were. So now we're really focusing on that. That's part of their comp stack. And I have a few other things, some sort of programs that my company can offer that a business can adopt on its own that would be for the benefit of every employee. And those would all be at the bottom, sort of anchoring the comp stack. And then as the stack gets higher in sort of a pyramid structure, then fewer and fewer people might be participating, or they might have to perform or their way in to higher levels. Not one of my clients, but another advisor I was working with said they have a company that they work with that has basically professional development coaching. If you're in the lower levels, so maybe you have to be with the company for some amount of time to get access to it. And in the lower levels of the business, you get this professional development, like sort of career development coach kind of thing. In the lower levels, you get it once, it's like twice a year. But as you get up through the organization, you have access all the way up to the highest is that you can access your professional development coach once a month and the company will pay for it. So some things are available to everyone. Some things are staggered and stacked. Some things are only available at the highest levels, I think, in a really complete comp stack approach.
So Elizabeth, let me ask you for the very upper tier of management, we're usually what a lot of owners have been reading about, so they usually come and they ask about it, is either if they're an LLC, some kind of income only interest, or if they're a corporation, some type of phantom stock plan. Are you proponents of those, or do you think there's better alternatives?
I'm still a pretty strong supporter of those types of plans. There are some rules that you have to make sure you follow if you're going to use them. So you can't just, I'm aware of the businesses that read an article and then, I've had clients show up and just say, I would like one of these, please. And that's really not the best way to do it. But I like a plan that engages the people who are participating in a way that aligns them with whatever the owner is trying to do. So, for example, I had a client years and years and years ago who started a business, and his goal was to sell it at a certain, for at least X dollars within Y number of years, whatever that was. It was a fairly sort of quick turnaround. And he wanted to do a phantom equity plan. And we went all through the phantom equity plan, but it was really getting hung up on the particular employees that he wanted to participate in the plan. And I won't get into the details of that, but it in a traditional true phantom equity plan. We were not going to be able to include all of the people that we wanted to include because of some rules. So what we ended up doing is we actually created a plan that was called a phantom equity plan, but it was actually, when you read it, it was a bonus plan that bonused people at the time of a sale of the business with a bonus amount that was calculated based on the sale price. So it's kind of like phantom equity, but it technically wasn't a phantom equity plan. It was actually a cash bonus plan. And so I think that, and for other clients, I go very much more traditionally into phantom equity, equity appreciation rights. If they're an LLC, I do like a good profits interest plan from time to time. So I like all of those technical pieces, but I think where we do really the most good for our clients is where we can step back for a second and maybe combine the elements of two different kinds of incentive or compensation type of plans in a way that works better for the client. So I tend to be I have all of the little blocks, and they're all in the toolbox. And then for every client, we're going to maybe assemble the incentive plan in a slightly different way based on their actual needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I hear you saying is there is no single exit path, and every exit is different. And therefore, real thought about incentive, it has to take into account the complexities of the exit, the succession, et cetera, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are too many advisors out there starting their incentive planning with what mechanism or tool they're going to use to fund it, and then building the plan on top of that. It's just a really shaky way to build a plan. And I don't see a lot of them working. I think you're much better off if you're looking at, especially if you're doing exit planning or any more sort of long-term planning for a business, than starting with the old traditional thing, starting with owner goals. What have they tried before? How did that go? That's important. And then what are they trying to accomplish? And the next question that's really, really important is, what can the people inside the business do? What do we need them to do in order to have this owner achieve his or her goals? So what do we need them to do? And once we know the answer to that, then we say, well, how will we know if they did it? So what do we need them to, what are the owner's goals? Okay. What do we need the teams, the top team and the rest of the company to do in order to have the owner achieve those goals? How will we know if they did it? So how will we measure? And then what would we be willing or able to share with them if they do the things that we need them to do? And that's where my sort of all the way down into the organization, financial or monetary and non-monetary rewards and incentives. That way we're able to maybe attract talent, motivate them, meet them where they are. If they need flexibility, if they need career development, if they need to learn things that they didn't already know, plus all of the financial rewards, and then share with that, and then have a lot of transparency in these programs so that they can see their path. Anything that's hidden, confusing, convoluted, complex, opaque is doomed, I think.
Right. So you're saying an incentive plan should actually incentivize people to do what you'd like them to do.
This is my brand new idea, Corby. It's first ever heard on this podcast, is that incentive plans should incentivize people. And I'm really concerned that, that the old way of incentivizing people is for the old types of employees that we had. We have different people. They are motivated by different things. And I need for all advisors and business owners, I need for all the Gen X and baby boomer leadership teams to acknowledge that what motivates their teams might be different today than it used to be. And let's respond to that. And let's capture the energy that people do naturally have. And let's channel it in a way that works for the business and the owner and also works for the employees.
Yeah, I think that's great. Hey, Elizabeth, before we wrap up, let me ask you one question, because one of the things you said very early on was, in speaking to employers, a lot of times their response is, well, I can't afford to pay anybody anything extra. And in all the textbooks, and I just want to see your real world experience. In all the textbooks, it's always like, well, a perfectly designed incentive comp plan is going to pay for itself. Theoretically, I guess it could. Do you see that very often?
I still believe in it. Honestly, I've always taught it that way, and I believe in it. And that's how I'm going to try to design a plan. Although I would say my understanding of the incentive plan designed correctly will pay for itself has maybe shifted a little bit, in that, I need for the plan and I need for the entire comp stack to deliver sort of an outcome. With my clients, I really call it sort of, what experience do you want to have with your ownership of the company today and in the future? What do you want your relationship to the business to be? And so I think those are more broad questions we can ask. And so in general, yes, I do want an incentive plan to pay for itself. I think that my assessment of what that means and can I get there has changed a little bit, and what my business owner clients need has maybe shifted a little bit. So I just have to I like the idea. I just have to think about it differently now.
Yeah, it's similar to what you said about your comp stack, in that if you're trying to say it's going to pay for itself strictly from dollars and cents, that's different than saying it pays for itself in increased retention, increased employee satisfaction, those things that aren't going to necessarily show up on your bottom line.
Exactly. So they will show up indirectly on your bottom line, I think. I don't think we will do those things if they are purely a drain. But, just in your ability to attract top talent, where's that on your P&L? So will it show up? Yes. Will we be able to connect them? Maybe not. So I totally agree with the way that you're sort of reflecting it back. And those are, I think, and as you can think through your business, the businesses that you work with, each of them is going to be a little bit different, right? In what they need, what they're trying to accomplish, and what they're, an engineering firm needs something different than my restaurant owning client, who needs something different from my HVAC contractor, who needs something different. So everybody's going to think of it differently, and I want to encourage everybody to do that.
That's great. This has been as we knew it would be, because you're one of our favorite and most popular guests. We knew it'd be great, so we just really thank you for taking the time to join us. And is there tell our listeners how they could reach out to you And let us know if there's anything you're promoting today, like maybe your new book called The New Com Stack.
Yeah, right.
Somebody asked me the other day to collaborate on a book, and I said, but I only like to write things that are 1 page long. So nobody wants to publish me because I tend to try to drive the word count down as low as possible. So no book. I have a variety of resources, many of which are free on my website. So entrevector.com is ENTRE, like the first part of entrepreneur, and vector, VECTOR. So all one word, entrevector.com. You can go there and get hit any of the contact links and send me a note. That's the easiest way. I'm going to give you a secret, which is that I actually receive all of the contact us requests and I process them all myself. I just reply to people. So I'm not so important that I can't do that. That's a really nice way to do it. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and message me there. So there's some free resources that a business or an advisor can sign up for at entrevector.com. Right now, there's a series that's in process, which has videos, articles, and free tools. And it's called Let's Rethink Planning. But there's a variety of other things that I'm really interested in giving back to the business community that has given me so much in my career. So I'm trying to make sure that I do that every day.
Yeah, you're always fantastic in that regard. So thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Oh, it's always fun. Yeah, thanks. Listeners, if you want help in building transferable business value, deciding how to exit and preparing for exit, or planning for a successful life after the business, please contact us for an explanatory conversation through our website at ennislp.com. And as always, thanks for listening. If you've benefited from today's episode, please consider liking and sharing it on social media. Until next time on the Exit Readiness Podcast, this is Walter Dial and Corby McGordon signing off.